Assalamualaikum and a very good day to our panels, Prof. Madya Dr. Zaherawati Zakaria and Dr. Zaini Zainal Abidin. First, let me introduce myself. I am Haziqah binti Fazli and my partner is Firzanah binti Mohd Salleh. Today, we would like to present the study on the factors affecting student academic performance on online learning during Covid-19 pandemic in UiTM Kedah, which was supervised by Madam Irwana Nooridayu, Muhamad Hakimi. Now, let's take a look on problem statement for this study. It highlighted that education in Malaysia before COVID-19 is based on face-to-face learning, and recently, the method of delivery in teaching and learning session in Malaysia has changed a lot. Universities have fully utilized the online learning mode only to ensure the continuity and performance of education among students, although they were critically hit by the unprecedented changes due to COVID-19 pandemic that has lasted until now. The major concern is on the student academic performance during online learning. It was said that academic performance of students will be declined if they are unable to participate in online class due to the low internet connectivity and have no access to work well technology. Next, this is the research question and research objective for this study. For research objective, first one is to determine the level of student academic performance during online learning. Secondly is to determine the relationship between the availability of technology and student academic performance during online learning. Thirdly is to determine the relationship between the role of instructor and student academic performance during online learning. Fourthly is to determine the relationship between student participation and student academic performance during online learning. And fifthly is to determine the most dominant factors that influence the student academic performance during online learning. Meanwhile, for the research questions, it is the reflection of the research objective that I have mentioned before. Moving on to the background of study. This study was conducted among students of UiTM Kedah, where it consumed 1 year to be completed, starting from October 2020 until September 2021. This study was carried out to give understanding towards the issue of student academic performance during online learning, to identify the factors that affect the student academic performance during online learning, and to explore the new learning tools that can be used during online learning. Next, we go to definition on key terms. Based on the Papimitsu and Economics 2014, student academic performance refers to a subjective estimation of what students believe they had learned or achieved better outcomes through their academic grades. It can be measured through the result gained when the instructor fills in the student marks for every activity and particular form or the given rubrics. This can be clearly seen through their grade achievement in several tests, written final examination, assignments, individual or group tasks. Secondly, IBEPSE 2009 mentioned that availability of technology can be defined as having an access on application with knowledge that are available to support and enhance human learning by creating, using, and managing the appropriate technological processes and resources. It provides facilities and needs for students to access their learning activities more easily. Without the availability of modern technology, the processes of online learning might not be able to achieve the desired outcomes, and the student academic performance may be affected too. Thirdly, as stated by Jomajli 2016, role of instructor is referring to persons who have primary, functional, and professional tasks in assisting others to gain knowledge, educating them, and responsible to cultivate positive habits as well. The role of instructor not only focusing on teaching, but they will always provide motivation, moral support for their student in creating a positive environment in the virtual classroom. Lastly, according to Cornelius 2008, student participation referring to the student involvement in learning processes, which can be divided into 5 classifications, which are preparation, contribution to discussion, group works, communication skills, and attendance. Participation is a good method to involve the student actively into the formal educational system. Moving on to the conceptual framework. So, these are the dependent and independent variables proposed in this study. The dependent variable chosen is student academic performance. Meanwhile, the independent variables namely are availability of technology, role of instructor, and students' participation. For data measurement, we use Likert and nominal scale. Next, for questionnaire survey, we created 5 different sections as followed. Section A covers on 5 items of demographic profile, such as gender, age, level of education, internet connectivity, and residence. For section B, it covers on dependent variable, which is level of student academic performance, where it is amounted to 5 questions as shown. It is being measured by 5 Likert scale from rate 1 until rate 5. Similar to section C, D, and E, where each section consists of 5 questions and being measured by 5 Likert scale as well. Our research design is based on descriptive and correlational research design. This study using a quantitative method to gather the data as it is more accurate, faster, and easier to be collected through scientific calculations, whereby the statistical method involved in this study are multiple regression as it able to determine the most dominant factor that contribute to the dependent variable, and correlation able to discover the relationship between independent variable and dependent variable, either it is existed or not. We also use Google Form for the data collection by distributing the questionnaire through WhatsApp group as it is more convenient for the current situation. The questionnaire was structured on bilingual, Malay and English, and it comprises of 5 sections. Then, we analyze the data using SPSS and examine the variables either it is normally distributed or not. The variables is said to be normally distributed if the value is between the range of -1 and 1. For unit of analysis, we are focusing on individual scope, which is student of UiTM Kedah from diploma and degree level who is facing online learning. Meanwhile, the sample size is amounted to 100 students based on the rule of thumb concept. For sampling technique, we are using systematic random sampling technique under probability sampling, which means anyone from diploma and degree students of UiTM Kedah can answer the given questionnaire on WhatsApp group. Then, for the data analysis, we use SPSS as a platform to run the statistical analysis, such as descriptive statistic, pilot study for reliability test, normality testing to test the assumption of normality, and inferential statistic, which consists of correlation and multiple regression. Correlation is said to be one of the chosen methods as it can use to analyze the data since the strength of correlation between independent variable and dependent variable can be determined through the R value as shown in the presented table. Next, multiple regression was used to identify the most dominant factor which can be determined through the highest value of standardized beta. This means the variable that represents the highest value of standardized beta is said to be the most dominant factor that influences the dependent variable of this study. Now, proceed with the pilot study. This will determine the potential problem area, deficiency, and inadequacy in the research instrument to ensure all variables are reliable to be used. The reliability can be determined by identifying its crunch by alpha value, where the acceptable reliability is considered as 0.C and above. According to the presented table, all variables involved in this study are said to be reliable and valid. Moving on to the descriptive statistic. The descriptive statistic was used to examine the extent of dependent variable with the independent variables. As stated in the table above, the mean value for student academic performance is 3.70, availability of technology is 3.94, followed by role of instructor is 3.41, and for student participation is 3.6. Thus, it can be said that the mean value for each variable is stated at the average level, which is between 3 to 4.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Firzanah binti Mohd Salleh. For the next presentation, I will explain about research finding. Research finding is based on our research objective. For our first research objective is to determine the level of student academic performance during online learning in UiTM Kedah. So, this is our result. And it shows that for the overall from the result, it shows that all respondents understand our research is about. Next, for our research finding is about to determine the relationship between available of technology and the student academic performance during online learning. So this is the result. And based on result, it shows that there is a strong significant relationship between the available of technology and student academic performance during online learning. It is because nowadays because of the pandemic COVID-19, the environment of education changed from class face to face to online learning. So technology or the internet is so important in order to carry on in education process. Our next research finding is about to determine the relationship between role of instructor and student academic performance during online learning. So this is the result. And based on the result, it shows that there is a strong significant relationship between the role of instructor and student academic performance during online learning. It is because the role of instructor is very important in order to increase the student academic performance. Because one of the role is to teach, to give information, to guide and influence the student in order to ensure that their student can achieve a good result in academic performance. Next, our research finding is about to determine the relationship between student participation and student academic performance during online learning. This is the result. And the result shows that there is strong significant relationship between the student participation and student academic performance during online learning. It is because student participation, it shows that the involvement of a student in the class. So the example of involvement that we can see is through discussion, presentation, and how the student give opinion about the topics that has been learned in the class. So it shows that the student is understand what have they learned in the class. Last, for our research finding is about to determine the most dominant factor that can influence student academic performance on online learning. So there are 3 factors. One is availability of technology, role of instructor, and third is student participation. So this is the result. And based on the result, it shows that availability of technology is the most dominant factors that can influence the student academic performance on online learning. It is because if the student have a difficult in access the internet, it also is difficult themselves to involve in the class, and also it will affect the student to understand what the subject has been learned during class online. Next is research implication. Based on the finding, it shows that the ability of the technology is the most dominant factors that can influence student academic performance during online learning. It is because if the student don't have a strong internet connection, it will difficult the students to understand what has been learned during online learning. Besides, the student who have awareness regarding the importance of education will not find it easily to absent from online class without valid issues. So, it is important for the ability of technology in order to ensure that the process of education can run smoothly. Next is research limitation. Research limitation is the problem that have been faced by the researcher in order to complete this study. So, low response rate is the problem that have been faced by the researcher. This term is about the involvement of the respondents that do not interested to take part in this survey. So, to be more specific, the researcher use a Google form in order to get the data, and the researcher assume that we'll get the complete questionnaire data within 2 weeks, but this was not the situation. Besides, it also have a delay because of connection of internet problem. Next is about a future research that can give as a recommendation for the student study that can be improved. So the recommendation that researcher can give is about focus for the data collection. For the data collection, we can focus more on qualitative and qualitative method in order to collect the data. It is because it will help a researcher to obtain more information through discussion of questionnaire, and also have a direct or one-to-one interview with the indebted respondent. Thus, this method also able to acquire the common factor which influence the level of student academic performance wisely.
To sum up, it is clearly proven that there is a significant relationship between all involved independent variables such as availability of technology, role of instructor, and students' participation with the dependent variable which is students' academic performance. With that, we will end the presentation with thank you.